Welcome to Crossbow Hunters of Minnesota's podcast. I'm your host, Michael Keeler, joined by my co-host, Adam McDermott and Jeremy Afelt. So welcome back to Crossbow Hunters of Minnesota's blog. And my name is Michael Keeler, and I have my co-host alongside me is Jeremy Afelt and Adam McDermott. So tonight's episode is going to be on crossbow maintenance now. Crossbow Hunters of Minnesota. We are going to put our stamp on June, the month of June, as our crossbow maintenance month. So you can look forward to every year in June. We'll give you a video put out on crossbow maintenance stuff. The reason that the three of us chose that date was simply because there's so much more activity at these pro archery shops and even in your retail stores as far as being able to get your hands on parts that you may need to get your bow ready for hunting. So what we do it now, we're ahead of that curve. And that's something that you will appreciate when hunting season comes around. So one thing we'd like to start with is, I'm just going to start with safety first. So as we start this procedure of maintaining our crossbows, first thing in our mind we should keep there always is our safety on. You know, is it in a safe position to work on? Always think about safety as we're handling these crossbows and doing things to them. The second thing I think is important when you go to start to do this is to make sure you have your gear ready. In other words, have some rags, have your lubricants, any other supplies you may need, your tools, have your crossbow set up either on a table or on, like you'll see, like Adam's got his on a tripod type thing, so he can really work on it and see everything, and it's sturdy, it's safe and easier to work on that way. And then also, we want to make sure the first thing we probably do is we'll just visually inspect your bow for any signs of damage, including like nicks or cracks, deformation, things like that. So how do you guys check for like split limbs or cracks or imperfections in your crossbow? Is there a technique that you use to do that?
Generally what I do is I take a cotton ball and I run it all the way on my limbs, both in and outside on the rail, and check to see if there's any buzz marks or any remnants of the leftover cotton ball. If there is, then take like a silver Sharpie. I just put a little dot there. It was something that I need to keep an eye on.
Oh, that's a great idea. Good tip.
Throughout the year, I keep visiting that place every week or so, or every so often, especially during hunting season. I make it a point that every time before I go out every time, just to run that, just to be safe to run that cotton ball over, especially that troubled area.
Sure.
Of course, obviously, if it splits, I'm going to get a whole 10-point and let them know, hey, look.
Yeah.
So go like that. And, but the other microscopic things is, I definitely do a cotton ball, like I said, on limbs and on the riser also, just to make sure that, that's good. There's no, what you can't see from the naked eye.
Yeah, exactly. So, Adam, do you kind of do the same thing, or how do you check yours?
Yeah. You either use a cotton ball or your fingernail. some crossbows, those say it can look like it's weakening, but it could be just the finish.
Okay.
So you want to keep an eye on that. A lot of Excaliburs. In one of Bungie's latest videos, he called Excalibur because it looked like it was going bad, but it's just the finish. So
Yeah.
still
Yeah,
kind
I've
of, yeah,
seen
it can
that.
be worrisome.
Yeah.
But and of course, one thing, of course, you want to do is check all the every nut you can see.
Yeah.
You got these here, of course, and I think a lot of people. I try to use blue Loctite. Don't use red because I think it's non-serviceable.
Sure.
So definitely, like sometimes I try to wiggle things to like the scope rail. If that comes loose, that can throw off your shot. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
pretty much what Jeremy said. Just
Yeah, that's good for just a visual inspection. So what about like Jeremy on your strings and cables and stuff? What do you do
Yeah.
do you check them and what do you do to preserve them and get them ready for
Yeah.
hunting?
What I do is
There you go.
over here is I have my crossbow, kind of my maintenance box. I keep everything in there that I need that I know I'm gonna
Sure.
be using throughout the season. I have everything labeled. Of course, there are my field
Nice.
points, batteries, extra spare knots. Um, this is my this is my um, Prelude and my wax. They're both
So
Scorpion Venom.
what kind of wax is that in there? I've never seen that container
Um,
before.
it is the it is the Scorpion Venom.
Oh yeah, I've heard
Uh,
that.
I
Okay.
really, really, really like this stuff because it does come with a like a little rag or something with it
Okay.
that you can or a little cloth that's inside there. I put a little bit on there, and then I come over here to my crossbow, and I make sure that I get the I get this here, I get this area. Um,
Do you put that
this
just
is
on your
mostly
put that on just the exposed areas of the string, or do you put it on your
yes.
serving or everything? Okay.
Nope. I do not put anything on the put anything on the servings.
Okay.
I know there's some people that do. I don't, just because I don't want to gum up that trigger box, because
Sure.
that could happen, especially in the wintertime.
Yep.
And then I
Yep.
have then I use the Scorpion Venom. Really, really like this stuff. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, when I do it, I apply and I go this way up, and I come back and I do the same thing. I come back and I go down with it, and then what I do is I take my finger and I kind of just lightly, lightly put
Sure.
everything here up to this
Okay.
point. Beyond this point, I don't go any further than here because I don't want anything to jam anything up in the trigger box
So Adam,
and stuff. So
do you do pretty much the same thing, or what do you do with your string and you say your rail for lube?
yeah, pretty much exact same thing. I use that the same company Jeremy has, but that blue, and that's for um, it's the blue string lube,
Yeah.
and then the yellow one I think is the rail. So pretty much the same thing. I mean, um,
So both you guys use that venom or whatever that is,
yeah,
yeah,
scorpion venom or whatever. You like that, huh?
yep,
See, I use
I
yeah,
the
I
know it.
do.
huh?
I was saying, Wyvern. Whenever you buy something from him, he always sends that. So he's a big fan of it.
Oh
Scorpion
yeah,
Yeah,
venom.
yeah.
yep.
I've heard of it. It's
I
good
am
stuff.
too.
I might have to check that out. I'm using Rail Snot product right now, You know.
That stuff's good stuff too.
Yeah.
A rail shot. I've heard a lot of people use that.
So
One thing I personally do, and I personally try to stay away from, is that rail lube and uh, string lats combined that you get with your new crossbows and some of these.
yeah.
I personally
Hmm.
myself, I try to avoid those.
Yeah.
I know I'm so, especially with this crossbow that I have, I'm so paranoid that something's going to get jammed up in that trigger mechanism
Mm,
or the
yeah.
cocking mechanism when I cock it back. That
There are definitely
I feel
more superior products out there than what
yes,
you get from
yes,
the manufacturer. What I think with your
yes.
crossbow, at
I
least
mean,
under
although
your
the manufacturer,
at least on
yeah,
your $1,000 and below crossbows, you know,
yeah, yeah.
that way. But so so Adam, where do you put like your lube, you know, for like, you know, your oil, your lube? Like I have this super lube. I don't know if you've ever used this before, but this here was recommended on a video I had watched here a couple of weeks ago. So I went out and got some, and man, I really like it. It's a synthetic oil, you know. And I don't know, do you with a recurve crossbow? Is there anything like that where that oil has to go to work on your
No,
crossbow?
it's well, just like Jeremy said, if you get too much
Yeah.
goop on the serving, which you shouldn't put any at all,
Hmm.
sometimes they'll dab some. Well, they say if you put enough on the railing, you're kind of helping the string in the same way because the string is going against it. So this hopefully the string gets lubed too a little bit. But
Sure.
again, yeah, you don't want to get any globs on it. And then no, it's I don't have any pulleys or anything to worry about, any cables, which pluses and negatives of that. But
Right. Right.
yeah, I try to put like Jeremy does, like maybe every time like every time before I shoot it, and then maybe 10 shots or so.
Sure.
Just try to get in the habit of doing it right before. So
Yeah. Yeah. But you
so
don't have to put any oil in the trigger box or anything like that, huh?
no, they say you can, and they have like a little like a needle applicator.
Yeah,
But
that's what
I
I have here, and
Yeah,
that's that rail snot, um,
yeah,
got snot or whatever it says
yeah,
on there,
that's
and that's got
yeah,
the little needle on it,
yeah.
you know, to oil. That's what I use around my cams and trigger
and one
box and stuff. So okay.
and one thing I try to do is any if you're hunting when it's raining out or something,
Hmm.
before you go, if you just put a little dab like on the screws that would be exposed to the wind or to the rain,
Yeah.
it'll hopefully prevent it from rusting. I mean, these you won't have to worry about, but of course, if the rain's coming down like this, there's
Sure.
all those exposed heads of the
Yeah,
nut or the
Okay. Well,
yeah,
that's a
nuts and
good tip.
bolts. So
I never thought of
yeah,
that.
so
That's a good tip because I do have
and
on my older crossbows. You can see where they've rusted.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they say you don't want to go overboard with it, but as
No.
long as some's on there, I guess. I mean,
Sure. So
so
So Jeremy, why don't you show us
yeah.
where you lube your cams and that, or what you do there?
Okay.
Do you use any oils like that or any?
Not as of right now. I'm going to. I'm in the process of buying oiler for this thing from 10 Point.
Yeah.
But yeah, they recommended like the screws kind of up here, kind of in here,
Yep.
where the cams and stuff are, like right in here. Um, and I also do make sure that this is timed. I haven't yet, but I will before season starts. I'll take
Sure.
a either a blue. I'll probably take my silver Sharpie, and on the cam here, if I can find it, are some timing marks.
Mm-hmm.
And what I will do is I will take my marker and wherever that timing mark is, I will I will notch it at rest, and then right beside it, or after it's completely cocked, I'll put a little mark where it should be cocked on this thing. That way I can also keep track of the timing. If it's off, I can just look down there
Yeah.
and say, oh, this is off. Bring it to the bow shop, have them
They'll know.
figure
Yeah.
out why
Mm,
why it's not timed. But yeah, yeah, I do. The trigger box. Here again, I know 10 Point says you can oil them. Just my personal preference. I don't because I'm so scared of junk and gunk getting up in there and jamming
yeah.
that trigger box.
Once you put oil on something, the dust can really grab a
Yeah,
hold of it. You know. See, we
yeah,
always got to be. That's a good point for everybody to check that too, to make sure that their trigger box is cleaned out and
yep,
you know, because you put your bow
yeah,
away after you hunt for 3 or 4 months, you know, and you don't look at it again until, you know, like we
yeah,
do now, June, you know, unless you're a turkey
yeah,
hunter
right,
or
right,
something, and you're, so that
yeah,
can get kind of dusty in there and it could be dirty from last year and stuff. So cool. So you got a
right.
reverse, you got reverse draw, right?
Yes, sir, I
Okay.
do.
So are there another set of like pulleys or cams in the center of that bow, like right down
Yes,
in?
this is what they call their. Turn this here. This is what they call
Okay.
their quad cam, or their quad design.
Oh
As you can
yeah.
see, it does have 4 cables or other,
Okay.
and that's to keep this thing tight. I mean, just to make sure that it's supposed to never. What I was told, it's supposed to never come out of time. And over here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but if you guys see them 2 marks there, that's my timing mark,
Yep.
as it is
Yep.
um, at rest. And that's one thing I will do is I will mark that, and then the rail on here. When I do move this up, I don't put a whole lot on there. Like I said, I just put enough to go down one side, come back up the other,
Yeah.
and I just take my finger and I just smear it
Yeah. I think we all
on
pretty
there.
much
And
do something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
So
but yeah, no, this is a quad, what they call a quad cable design.
okay.
So this is never, the way I understood it from 10 Point is this is never supposed to come out of time. Well, we never say never in this with this stuff. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really like this crossbow a lot. This got actual. When I bought this, the first gentleman I bought it from, actually, these are brand new strings and cables. They've
That's
never
nice.
been
Yeah. Okay.
they've never been shot in. So I do have the other pair in case something would happen to these. So I do
Well,
have a backup string.
yeah, and that was something too
Oh
that is
no.
a good point for every archer, whether you're vertical or horizontal crossbow. Have an extra set of strings and cables if you can, because
Yes.
even if they break and you can't replace them yourself, you can bring them to the pro shop and you've got the parts right there to get it fixed.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's always a good.
Yeah.
That's our crossbow hunter of Minnesota tip of the day right there. You know.
Yeah.
So Adam, let's
Always.
let's look at cocking mechanisms next. You know, that's something that when you do your bow maintenance, I think that's also an important part of making sure that part of your system, whether it's a crank system or a hand load or whatever you have going on there. What do you use to cock that recurve?
I do have the string that comes with it to cock it. Otherwise, I'll have to go grab it.
Okay.
It's a you set it on here, and then it has 2 hooks that go down the rail.
Yeah. Okay. So
Um,
so what do you do? Do you do any maintenance on your um, you know cocking mechanism, or
I I haven't yet, but I'm always afraid something could happen. But that's why it's nice to have that backup manual uh,
sure?
cocker string.
Yep.
Um, but no, you're always afraid something might go wrong, when you're out in the middle of the woods. So
Yeah, and that's another reason why we like doing this maintenance now, so we don't have those big
Yeah.
surprises while we're out there. You know, on my G4D, I have a cocking sled. It's not like the hooks. I have those on the Sniper 370, um, but on the sled that fits right down and then hooks. It just grabs your strings and slides up the rail when you're cranking it. So what I did is I went and I take that sled and I actually flip it upside down so it's the part that's touching my string and my rail, and I'll look for any burring or any wear on there. And if
Yeah.
that is there, I'll take some real fine either file or sandpaper or something, and I will smooth that out a little bit. Not enough to change the actual fit or function of it, but just the smoothness so it's not going to tear anything up. And then I also look
Right.
at all of my string that's in my cocking device or on my hand cocker. Those hooks, I'll take a look at them too. Where they hook on the string, is there any kind of burring in there or wear on that or stuff like that? So I just thought I'd ask you how, because I know Jeremy, yours has a crank, does it, or is that a hand?
Yeah. Mine has the AccuSlide, the integrated cocking system. There I don't do anything with that other than, of course, make sure the handle is where it's at. I I do well I learned from watching uh, a video from another YouTube person is they said there's a little uh, like set screw or nut under there that holds the uh, you got a button that you got to press in and press out. Well, there's a
Okay.
screw under real tiny like a 5/32 Allen wrench, and I make sure that I tighten that up every year, regardless,
Yeah.
And throughout my practices, I just make sure that when I'm done, I go in there and just check that, because if that comes out, you're gonna have to order yourself a whole brand new handle, because
Okay.
otherwise it won't work in there. But yeah, that's one thing I did pick up on a tip of a YouTube person had mentioned, that to go ahead and just tighten that up, just as general maintenance, check it, make sure it's
Sure.
okay. I go through my handle, I make sure there's no burrs, cuts,
Yeah.
sharp edges, anything like that. Same way with that where I hook it up at. I just kind of make sure that you know um, it's good to go, ready to go. Um, like Adam said too, that'd be one thing that when I'm done, especially if I'm out in the rain or snow, I will make sure that I wipe all this off. Another thing too I would suggest is um, when you get home and after you wipe it off, don't shove it in your case right away.
No.
Let it sit out for a night or two, maybe even a week, and just let it dry completely after you wipe it off, and then choose to put it in your case.
Yeah.
I've seen people get home, dry it off, blah blah blah. Yeah, looks good. Throw out your case. Don't touch it now till June, July, maybe even August. And come to find out, oh, I forgot this part. Like Adam said, now you got a rusted, screw on your stove for
Yeah.
someplace, and it could have
Sure.
been all prevented by just letting it sit there and letting it dry.
Okay. So Adam, another area I was thinking about, and I don't know if you guys do this, but do you go through all your arrows and check them for like cracks or splits?
Yes.
How do you
Yep.
do that, Adam? Do you just check them that way, or
yeah, it's kind of cool. They have like a actual warning label on the arrows saying you should do like a little flex test
Yeah.
yeah?
and
Okay.
make sure you don't break anything. And then, of course, you can do the spin test. Get one of those cheap spinners.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just make sure they're straight. Otherwise, and then make sure, of course, there's a knock in there. Sometimes you never know with arrows. If something might be missing or broke, or
Right.
you shoot a
right.
target, you go to pull it out, and the insert and the broadheads are stuck in the target. So,
Yep. That happened
Yeah.
to me here recently. And I had to replace my inserts in the arrows and stuff. But yeah, I mean it's a good thing to do, and then dispose of any of them arrows that do look iffy. Don't take a chance on it. And if you fire a cracked arrow in your crossbow, not only can it damage your equipment, but you could get hurt too.
Yep.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's a good thing to check that, and your
Yeah.
fletching. Check out your fletching on there too. I think is good. So
And of course, we pretty much covered this, but even the scope mounts, you can easily forget about them too. Want to
Yeah.
make sure they're
Yep.
torqued if you can, otherwise as tight as you think they should be.
So on
So-
your
Yeah, you
site,
don't wanna-
huh? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. On that what Adam said. Yeah. On that scope. Yeah. Don't over tighten them.
No,
Because
that's
you
right.
don't want to crush that. You don't want to crush that tube.
Yep.
Ask me how I know. I've done it. The first one I ever had. Like all of a sudden I can't, see in there and just wrecked a scope that way. But no, yeah, I would have, I would definitely, yeah, like you said, just go through here, And another too is if you got an illuminating scope, turn it on just to make sure that your battery's still working.
Well, that's what I was
Yeah,
just
if you
going to
got-
get at too. Is that
Oh,
on your,
yeah.
on your you're on your sites. You got to check your proper mounting is tight. Make sure your batteries are fresh. All of us are pretty much using some type of a optic that either is lit, either your crosshairs light up or something on there needs a battery.
Yeah.
And I can testify that I did not check my rangefinder that I have on my crossbow here this a couple of hunts ago for turkey, and it costed me. So that's why I have that on my notes to check and replace. So in fact, usually what I think what I'm gonna do is I just go through and replace all the batteries. They're not that expensive,
No.
little watch batteries or whatever they are, and put them in there. And so yeah. So what about arrow retention springs? Do you guys have any like on your, or a feather or brushes or?
Yeah, I've got a brush. I've got a brush on mine. I always, like I said, I kind of make sure. The nice thing
yeah.
about this is on my reverse. On this reverse, right there's a spring, but when this box comes down and it hooks onto the string here, that brush sticks out about that far off the bow. You can leave it like that if I plan to go hunt the next day. Otherwise, what I generally do is when I'm done and I want to, and it's back down the resting position, I take my handle out and there's a little button underneath here. There's a little button that I push and it lets go of the anti-dry fire mechanism on this thing. And then I can pull this here trigger box all the way back so it's ready to go, and then I have no worries about that brush there ever breaking.
So you
Yeah,
ever
what I-
have
what I-
to put any like cleaner on it, or or check for wear on them, or anything like that with the brush?
I do check for wear on the brush.
Okay.
I do also put an arrow in the all the way back, and
Yeah.
I do that just to make sure that brush is still touching it, or it's not like jamming it in there, and
Or,
just
it's not holding it down at
what-
all.
yeah. Once you get to know your crossbow and real well, you can tell when there's something wrong with it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like it's like second nature,
sure.
you know.
So you got a
Um,
spring on yours, Adam, right? Yours is more like a spring. Your
Yeah,
arrow retainer
that, this is all
slides
it
in.
is. Yeah,
So does
just
that
arrows.
wear on your arrow when it comes through there or not? Or is that
No,
the tension
I've
set?
never. Well, that's a good question because if I think if anybody looks at their arrows, the label on it,
Yeah.
uh, that could have been from when it went to the target too. But I suppose some of that could be from takeoff. But otherwise, it looks pretty smooth. I don't think it affects it at all. But
So do you lose any like kinetic energy by having the drag on that arrow as it's leaving the bow at all? Or is that
I
why
don't
I
think so.
guess that's why I'm asking if you put any like oil under there or any like we do on our rails too. I
Yeah, so
know
far so good.
I know the rails are for our string more than our arrow, but I was just curious about that. Another. Go ahead, Adam. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say. So when you're cocking these, one time I had the string over this, and the string is cocked back, so
Oh,
I bent the heck out of it. But they just send you a new one. But attention to detail, of course. You don't
yeah,
want to be distracted. Want to
no.
focus. But yeah,
Especially when you're loading your bow up. Yeah.
yeah,
So another piece of equipment, I guess you could call it. I thought about too was you guys have slings with your bows at all?
oh yeah,
no,
So that's
no,
another area to take a look at. You know, you check your slings for if you have any fraying going on or where they connect to your bow if
right,
there's a swivel in there, making sure all that is lubed and free and moving
yep,
correctly and
yep.
things like that. So what kind of sling do you use, Adam? Do you have?
I have to go grab that. I have to go grab that too.
Oh, that's
It's
okay.
one. It starts off as a normal sling,
Oh,
but you
okay.
can unbuckle it, put it around the back, and tie it in like this. So it's like a
Oh,
backpack almost.
oh,
And
that's cool.
I had an issue with those sling studs. They wouldn't turn back in, but then when you take the bow off, you can just, of course, snap back together, and take it right off. So
Sure.
I think they're called dual slings,
Sure.
but
Yeah. Yep.
it's it's nice. It's yes.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe take a look at that someday. I'd like to see that. So now
Yeah.
another thing we think about is like us guys that have cameras and stuff on our bows. That's another piece of maintenance for us to have them ready. And there again for me, all I do is check all the screws, make sure it's tight, and then I also recharge the battery and clean the lens off, stuff like that, and just make sure she's ready to go for the next hunt. And then I also make sure that my memory card has been formatted so I
Yeah.
don't it
Yeah,
doesn't get too full on me, and I can't put any more on it, and I don't get shot. So
right,
I just thought, not everybody has cameras on their bows, but a lot of guys do now.
yeah,
So I figured we'd
yeah,
put that in here and give them a little tip too to check that stuff. So another thing too that I don't know when your guys' manufacturing companies from your bows suggest that you should change your string or cables, and usually that's every 2 years, 1,000 shots or something like that. But that's one thing too. As you guys out there are doing maintenance on these bows, if you still have your owner's manual, if not, go to your manufacturer's websites and check on what they are suggesting for your bow as far as how often you should replace strings and cables. Um,
yeah,
and then and then go with that advice because they're the ones that know. You know, they built it.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
any other questions that people have for their individual crossbow that maybe we didn't cover, you know, always go back to the manufacturer specs, go back to their your owner manual or their website, um, and then follow those directions. You know, what we're telling you guys here today is what we do,
Yeah.
and it's going to be slightly different maybe for your crossbow, but a lot of things are pretty much identical. You know, as far as the lubing and checking springs and junk like that. So, and then we also talked about storage a little bit. You know, Jeremy brought that up about if you come in from the weather, don't just wipe your bow down and then shove it in your case. And that's a good point. They say to keep your crossbow in a cool, dry place that has really low heat and moisture. So in other words, don't go out with your buddies and shoot at the range in July. Take your crossbow, throw it in the back of your car, slam the trunk down, and forget about it for 2 months. That's not gonna work too well. So
you're asking for trouble.
yeah, exactly. So I
One
guess,
thing I learned.
yeah.
Oh, one thing I've definitely had. It's nice having more than one crossbow because I've had a few years where something goes wrong with your main one. Like this year, halfway through the season, before the season, I just sent it in to get the trigger fixed. Well, I have this backup here, and I have another backup because it's kind of nice to. I mean, even if you get a really cheap one or just anything, a backup is always nice to have.
Yeah, I got that
because
Sniper 370 to back up my G4D Sniper.
because of course shops could be so busy. It's just nice to know, even if you're questionable about something, you can always go to your trusty backup. So
that's a good tip.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We all have a story about that, right? Having something, and you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and the whole thing there too is it's not so much trying to get into maybe a pro shop, but if you got buddies or plans that weekend to go hunting, and you've got a trip planned, even if it's a weekend trip, you got to have a bow, right? And if you don't,
Yeah.
if your main bow breaks, so how many bows do you have, Adam? Crossbows that
three
the
of them.
wife knows about.
Two of them. Three of them. Then of course, in that other video I showed you, I have that double barrel one. So kind of the same thing where if the top one something go wrong, we still have a backup. So
that's
it's kind
nice
of
too. Yeah, having the two
So,
shots.
so Adam, on that double one you have, how do you lube like that bottom rail? Do you use like a Trident
point.
grease or?
yeah, pretty much this same thing. You might have to get a Q-tip or your pinky in there on the bottom rail
Yeah.
because there's not much room in between.
Right.
But and even you can't access the serving unless you have a Q-tip or something to get in there, because of course the serving is hidden, of course, because it's two barrels. So, but pretty much the same thing. And one thing, like this is like a plastic rail, which seems kind of weird because we're all used to metal rails. But
Aluminum. Yeah.
I still put lube, but I'm pretty sure this is just plastic, which kind of scary, but it does good. So
what on that? What is the brand on that one that shoots 2 arrows?
that's the Excalibur Twin Strike.
Yeah. Okay. Just so people out there that are listening would know what you're talking about as far as lubing that bottom rail and stuff, you know. Yeah.
And you kind of like the old style where it's just you put the arrow against the string and you shoot. But now a lot of bows you gotta get the right knock. You gotta, like Jeremy probably has, and then you gotta go back. It's like a ceasefire system,
Yep.
and it's got to click. And then on that bow, you got to put a special decocking hook on there, or you just shoot it to get it to disengage to unstring it. So it's kind of pluses and minuses, and
Yeah.
that was one problem I had with the ceasefire is that the bottom one wouldn't hold the string. So, you know, I could have hunted with it, but I figure if one trigger is bad, the other one could go bad, but they're separate triggers, so you wouldn't think so. But
So do you fire
kind of like
fire one more than the other, or do you fire them about the same amount?
I'd make sure to do the same amount. So I always load 2 arrows for practice and just shoot one and the other. And yeah, I don't want to offset it too much, but
Sure. Okay.
it's kind of like an old car with manual windows, manual locks, and then you get to some of these higher up ones where they have power windows, power locks, power this, power that. More things go wrong. So, but anything could go wrong with any bow.
The slick black Cadillac,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
as Bungie would say.
Yep.
Rich over there on Death by Bungie. So, all right, you guys got any other high points you want to hit? Otherwise, I think we pretty much covered what we needed to here for this episode.
One other thing I'd like to mention this is whatever you do not leave your crossbow cocked overnight.
Yeah.
That is that's a good way to basically ruin it. You crack a limb, stretch out stringed cables. You know, you're
It's
again
not a good
go back
practice.
to your manufacturer to find out how long. If it's not in your book, look on their website. If it's not on their website, call or email them.
Yeah,
Say, hey,
sure.
how long do you recommend this crossbow that I have to be cocked? You know,
Okay, good.
And one quick thing is like
Yeah,
the brace height for these is a distance between the arrow and the bumper. I don't know if you can see that or not.
yeah.
So
Sure.
with these, you can just take the string off, and you can. I suppose it's kind of like timing. You can
Twist it.
tighten the string, and you can loosen the string. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice. So
Okay.
and so it's kind of nice doing that. I mean, because I don't know much about recurve or your kind, but these strings stretch too. So you'll see your and then your shot will be off a little bit. Like if your string stretches, it's probably going to slow down your arrow. So the target might be a little off.
Sure.
So
sure.
sometimes
I got you.
some bows have marks on there, and then of course every website they tell you the distance from either this where it starts or the distance from the bumpers. So
Sure. Okay, cool. That's good to know.
and on that, how do you know what brace height to send that? Do you use like a card or like an old debit card or something? Just slide in there and put the strings up to it, and
yeah, otherwise I'll use like a caliper
Yeah.
or just
Oh,
a
sure.
regular.
yeah,
Because if you don't have these, they're like vibration dampeners. So if you don't have these, then it'll be a little different. But yeah, you measure here to your string and whatever they recommend. But again, if you have bumpers, then they have another measurement here. Because
right.
Cool.
so
All right, guys. Well, thanks again, and
Yep.
we will talk to you guys next week.
Yeah.
We'll do,
Sounds good.